We're going to Indianapolis. Good afternoon. Welcome to a very special late edition of the Cohn Zone. We're the Cohns, Grant Cohn, Lowell Cohn, both in the Bay Area for now. But next week, half of the Cohn Zone will be in the Bay Area and Indianapolis simultaneously next week. I'm excited to go, Dad. You've been there before. We're going to talk all about what Indianapolis has to offer, not just the NFL, but the country. Talk about that.
Okay.
First, we got to talk about the Niners. Dad, I want to talk about how good you look. How you doing?
I'm batting 1,000, Iggy. How are you?
Batting 772.
Okay.
So, Combine week, you're trying to catch up to teams that have passed you. The Eagles are the team to beat, obviously. And we'll talk about the Eagles, but I think the Niners have to approach this as like in stages. And maybe before they reach the Eagles level, they should figure out a way to catch the best team in their own division. The Rams. How far ahead of the Niners do you think the Rams are to start there?
Let's phrase it like this. What do the Niners need to do to be as good as the Rams? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, we'll get to the Eagles, the standard for the league, but also the standard for the NFC. So what must the Niners do to become as good as the Rams? Iggy, they need to get a defense.
It starts right there.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do. I'm not even looking at offense. They need to get a defense.
Yeah. And I think what's so interesting about the Rams, the way they've put it together, they had Aaron Donald for a long time, and he was sort of the foundation of their defense. He retired, and they had to build it completely new. And instead of like trying to go sign someone like Javon Hargrave, which the Niners did, they just drafted a bunch of young guys mostly and played the young guys and let them learn on the job. And now they've gotten about 2 seasons of experience, and they have a bunch of really good young players on their defense who aren't making a lot of money. The Niners don't even play their young players.
Oh, no, that's what Kyle Shanahan doesn't do.
Right.
So, I mean, specifically, and we're going to go over this again with the Eagles, because the Eagles, now that's a defense. The Rams is a pretty good defense. I mean, the Rams are not a great team. They were the best team in really a weak division. And they got exposed. And I mean, the Eagles killed them. And the way Saquon Barkley was able to run on them was really, in a way, disgusting, Iggy.
Yes.
It was, I have to say. So the standard is not very high for the Niners to beat them. Still, they would need a defense. And let me say, Iggy, I'm going to give them credit that their secondary is good and will be good. Plus, they got Robert Saleh back, and that's a big deal because he's really good. But, Iggy, they need a defensive line, and they need better linebackers. I mean, they really are at a deficit. So that's where I start. What do you think they need to be better, as good as or better than the Rams in the upcoming season?
Let's compare the defensive lines. The Rams defensive line consists of 4 young players that they've drafted in the last 2 drafts. So they really did a good job. The Niners defensive line, they got Nick Bosa. They drafted him. Good. They also paid him a lot of money. Leonard Floyd signed him. Malik Collins signed him. Jordan Elliott signed him. So those are like 3 older, mediocre players. If the Niners are going to get a really good defense, they're either going to have to spend a ton of money on those players, which is not what the Rams do, or draft them high consistently and get them right. And the Niners are like not years behind it, but it did take the Rams 2 drafts.
Again, I'm going to use the word deficit. The Niners are at a deficit because on the defense, that's a lot of players that they have to coach up, build up. And can you do that in one off season? I mean, a lot of people are saying the Niners are really a contender for next season. Well, if you're looking at the defense, it seems like that may be 2 seasons of rebuilding, not 1.
I mean, the last time the Niners faced this Rams team, the Niners scored 6 points. So this Rams defense destroyed them. And we saw the way to beat them is to run the ball a lot. Eagles did that. The Niners used to be that kind of a team. I don't know if they still are, but to be as good as the Rams, you really have to be great at running the ball because they have an incredible pass rush.
And we've been over this 1,000 times. The Niners, the offensive line can block for the run some of the time, but they're not particularly good at defending the quarterback. Look in the Super Bowl how much time Jalen Hurts had.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good quarterback, Iggy, but he's not a great quarterback. And then on the other side was a great quarterback, Mahomes. He couldn't get anything done because he never had a moment. He never had a second. So I don't know. In order for the Niners to compete with the Rams, they're going to have a much better offensive line, and they don't seem to care about that.
Yeah.
So I feel they're at a deficit on the line on each side.
Agree. And then there's also a big difference between their quarterbacks. I mean, Stafford may retire soon, or maybe they'll trade him this year. Who knows? There's weird sort of rumors going on with him. But for now, the Rams have the much better quarterback. And in close games, you used to look at Stafford as the guy who would throw the bad pass, make the bad decision, give it up. But he's become really good in close games, whereas Purdy's the one who sort of has the tendency to give it up.
Yeah, I used to see Purdy as a better competitor in the crisis moment than Stafford, but I don't anymore. I see Stafford actually as someone who'll rise up. And Purdy this season was throwing picks toward the end, and the one guy rose up. I thought he was shrinking, Iggy.
Yeah.
I do. I think he was shrinking. And, I really, in a way, root for him. He's a great story. He seems like a very nice young man. I would like him to make it, but I have to be honest. I can't say, Iggy, I can't say I was very impressed with him this past season, and especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's troubling to me because you were sort of educated by Bill Walsh. All Niner people were sort of schooled by Bill Walsh. And for him, it was always about the fourth quarter. How you performed in the fourth quarter is kind of what defines you. And at least this season, he was DeBerg in the fourth quarter. Dad, here's some numbers. First half, second half. First half of this, in the first half of games this season, he threw 12 touchdown passes and 2 picks. It's good. Then in the second half, he threw 8 touchdown passes and 10 picks.
That's really not good.
He went from really good to really not good. We saw it happen multiple times.
Why do you think that happened? Because I don't know.
So many theories. I don't know. I had someone write me an email today saying they think it's because his elbow is still messed up and he gets tired as the game goes along. Can you tell me? I don't know. Maybe it's nerves. Maybe it's pressure. Maybe it's the fact that early in his career, he was involved in so many blowouts because the team was so good and he was new. Now he's in close games and he's not so great in close games. Or Kyle's not so great in close games. The whole team isn't so great in close games.
I could go for that latter theory. I don't think Kyle is good in close games. I don't think he knows how to finish. And his quarterback is taking his lead. I don't think he knows how to finish either.
No. It was interesting at the end of the season, Brock comes out. He's very honest. You remember how Tim Lincecum would sort of give these confessions after starts and be very self-reflective?
Right. Yes.
Brock's that way too. And he said this weird thing. He's like, I really got to get back to the mindset I had when I first got in the league, when I was just trying to prove myself and show to my teammates that I belong. And it's like, what does that mean? Because it kind of implies, well, it definitely implies that his mindset has shifted. And I think you could maybe guess that in this past year with the whole contract looming over everything, that he was maybe trying to prove that he was elite and not just being himself.
Whatever it means, and Iggy, I'm not sure what it means. It strikes me as a young man who has self-doubt.
Yep.
That's what it strikes me as.
Right.
And it's very hard to be a great quarterback when you have self-doubt.
Sounds like something Jake Moody would say.
Yeah, that poor guy.
Poor guy. Yeah. So that's what they got to do to catch the Rams. Let's talk about the Eagles. The Eagles are the new gold standard in the NFL. It seems like they kind of ended the Chiefs' run, and now this is the new blueprint. What do you think the Niners need to do to be as good as the Eagles?
Okay. this is even more interesting than the Rams. Here's what I want to say. My working hypothesis is that in the 2025 season, there is no way on earth they're going to be as good as the Eagles. It's not going to happen.
And barring a bajillion injuries, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I don't see it, but
No.
we're talking to 49ers fans. So I don't want to be negative, low, all of that, Debbie Downer. Look, we already went over the lines, the offensive and defensive. I got to say, the Eagles, their defensive line and their offensive line, they're great.
Yeah.
And that's how they won the game, Iggy.
Mhm.
They gave the MVP to the quarterback. Fine. But the MVP was the defense and Vic Fangio. That was the MVP. But you can't give it to a whole half of the team. So sure, you give it to the quarterback. So right away, I think the Niners really need to upgrade offensive line, defensive line in order to be in the game with the Eagles. But here's the other thing that bothers me about the Niners. They have 4 players who are hurt. And I want to name them and then tell you what I think. Ayuk is seriously hurt. The running back, CMC, is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
The left tackle couldn't finish the season. And Dre Greenlaw couldn't finish more than half of the last game he played. So there are 4 really, really good players, significant players who finished the season very hurt. I think in order to compete or be as good as the Eagles, each one of those 4 players would have to be as good as he was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
What troubles me about that is they'll be 2 years older. And the Niners are betting that they'll all be well again. Well, my guess is not every one of them is going to be well again. They'll be lucky if they get 50%.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean. Let's go over them one at a time. Is Ayuk even going to play next season?
Maybe late, and he won't have an off season. So what will his condition be when he steps on the field? It could be like the Dre Greenlaw situation from this past season.
Right. So Ayuk, I'm going to call plus minus, okay? I really respect him as a player, but he may be a minus because he may not be participating. And when he comes back, he has a serious injury. Will he be Ayuk? So I'm calling him a minus. Iggy, the left tackle, has been a Hall of Fame left tackle. He couldn't finish the season. I don't believe that he will play a whole season ever again.
Yeah, he hasn't played a whole season since 2013. He was 25.
Okay. So, Iggy, I have to call him a minus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call these not minuses, potential minuses. I'm trying to give him every break.
The problem with having Trent Williams as your starting left tackle is that means you're going to have 2 to 8 games a season where your starting left tackle is a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's call it a potential minus. The running back, Iggy, he hardly played last season. He was hurt. He came back. He got hurt again. Now, the idea that he's going to be Christian McCaffrey again, I'm going to call it a push. I won't call him a minus, but I can't give him a plus.
That's
For
fair.
me, it's an incomplete. I don't know. Okay. Dre Greenlaw, Iggy, first of all, he's a free agent, so he may not even be here. But in addition, he got really hurt and he couldn't make it back when they said he was able to make it back. Iggy, at the best, I'll give him a push. So I couldn't give any pluses. I have 2 minuses and 2 pushes, and they need those guys. They need those guys. They can't play around those guys. So, Iggy, I don't see them catching the Eagles in one season. How about you?
No, I don't see them catching the Eagles in one season. I think what's so interesting about the Eagles is how they've kind of changed what you're supposed to do to build a team. Like, I think for the last 40 years, everyone said it's a passing league. It's a passing league. You got to have the greatest quarterback. You got to have the best pass rush. They're not a passing team at all. They averaged 181.5 passing yards per game this season. Per game. 181. That was second fewest in the league. They ran the ball 621 times this year. By far number one. I mean, no one else was more than like 550. So everyone's like trying to get the best quarterback and throw it down the field. I mean, they just want to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. And it feels like old school football. But that's, I think, where the league is going. All these defenses are so scared of quarterbacks. They play these two high safeties, split safeties, and dare you to run. And the Eagles take you up on that challenge. And I think the Niners are interesting. They used to be that way. They won the NFC Championship game 4 years ago against the Packers, throwing 8 times. And they kind of got away from that. Whenever they're in big games now, they throw the ball a lot. And it seems like you guys could do that. I mean, you don't have a quarterback quite like Jalen Hurts who can run like that, but you've been a good running team, but they really, really, Kyle wants to pass it deep down.
Right. And the way I learned football is when you have a lead in the fourth quarter, you run the ball. Kyle really doesn't do that. He has excuses why he doesn't run the ball. He always has an excuse, but he doesn't really do it. He's not playing football. So I'm going to come back to the Eagles. They're going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to knock you out of the game. They're going to knock you off the offensive line. They're going to, and what I'm calling, they're playing football. Mm-hmm. We're here to fight. We're here to beat you up.
Our offensive line is going to wear down your defensive line, and our defensive line is going to bully your offensive line.
And get to your quarterback.
Yep.
We're going to get to Patrick Mahomes and make him look bad. They did it. Look, the Chiefs are a good team. They're better than the 49ers. Look what they made the Chiefs look really bad, Iggy. And I think their attitude is, we're going to beat you up. Now, Bill Walsh used to say to me, you know, these teams, Lola, come in and they're really strong and they'll beat you up. Sometimes they meet a team that can do that to them. What do they have then? I got it. You need to have something else. I think Philadelphia has something else.
They do.
And I don't think there's a team in the league that can compete with them in their game.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about him. Like, they have A.J. Brown, pay a lot of money for him, great wide receiver. Also have Devontae Smith, pay a lot of money for him, great wide receiver. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, he throws the ball pretty well. But they just want to run the ball. And they'll throw it if they have to, if you dare them to, if you sell out. But they really are committed to running the ball better than anyone. And you got to admire it, because the Niners are not committed to it. They have the capability, but they're not committed to that.
I'm not sure, Iggy, they any longer have the capability. Jordan Mason, I mean, the poor guy that got him hurt. And McCaffrey, again, I'm calling it a push, whether he'll ever be McCaffrey again. They theoretically would like to play that way, but I don't know that they're capable of it.
Well, what's interesting is 5 years ago, when they were the best running team in football, the league was different. Now, there's a lot more of these running quarterbacks. And if you really want to commit to running the ball, then having a quarterback who could give you 500, 800 yards a season on the ground really helps. And I think the threat of the quarterback running helps the running back. So you've seen, the Baltimore, Philly, Washington, Arizona. Arizona was like second in the league in running this year because the quarterback's a big part of it. It's going to be hard to be the best running team in the league if your quarterback doesn't run a lot. That being said, Brock can run.
I don't agree. Brock can scramble, but he doesn't run.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference.
It's true.
Jalen Hurts can run.
He's built like a running back.
Yeah, he can run through tackles. Purdy is clever. He's a great schoolyard ball player. Mm-hmm. If he can scramble if he needs to, but you couldn't make him part of the running attack.
It's funny. Steve Young said that he'd like to see Brock Purdy be part of the running attack. But yeah, I mean, if he's kind of small, he's not the fastest guy in the world. And if he gets hurt, then you're screwed. And he's gotten hurt running. He's also gotten hurt in the pocket.
If he runs a lot, he'll get hurt.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
He's clever at scrambling, but I think there's a difference. If he is a part of the running game, he's going to get hurt.
And what's interesting about Purdy and Hurts, they're both limited as passers. I mean, in different ways. Purdy has a weak arm. Hurts doesn't see the field that well. But if you have a quarterback who's limited as a passer, you'd really like him to be very dangerous as a runner. And one is very dangerous and one is nifty.
Yeah, nifty. That's a
Nifty.
really good adjective for him. And I
Yeah.
love nifty on a
Yeah.
team with other weapons.
Yeah.
But you can't depend on nifty.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if the league is really going this direction, if it's becoming more of a running league. It's an interesting trend. Forever, my whole life, people say it's a passing league. It's all about stopping the pass and throwing. Yards per game through the air, down 30 yards per game from 10 years ago. That's not the evolution I was expecting into the 2020s.
Okay, Iggy, I want to come back to the division and the conference. The way the 49ers are now, and we understand they're going to get players in free agent and they're going to get in the draft. I understand it. Where they are now, where do they rank in their division?
If Christian McCaffrey were to come back and play a full season and be great, they would be right there at the top. But if he can't do that, if he's compromised, if he's in and out, they're still at the bottom.
Fair enough. So it's McCaffrey is so
It's a running league, and he's their best player.
Okay, let's go to the conference. Where do they stack up in the conference? And let's do the McCaffrey test the way you just did it.
Okay, if McCaffrey's back and he can go for 1,500 yards on the ground and play 15, 16 games, then I think they're up there with Detroit and Minnesota and Green. They're not the best team in the NFC, but they might be up there with Washington. They might be the second. They might win their own division.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If CMC isn't CMC.
If CMC isn't CMC and they let Jordan Mason go and they don't have a real good backup who can play for a while, I mean, Garendo is more of a filler-inner. They could miss the playoffs again, even with Robert Saleh on the team. Because when this team has to pass a lot, Purdy tends to turn the ball over and lose. They need to run the ball a lot. That's their game script.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're saying is, as of today, which is the 18th of February, we see the Niners going one of two ways, and we really don't have the answer.
So much depends on a 29-year-old running back. Lays with rainwater.
He's making me. There's a very famous poem by William Carlos Williams called "The Red Wheelbarrow," and he was just doing a take on the Red Wheelbarrow. I love.
How did William Carlos Williams' parents name him William? How are they sitting there? The Williamses thinking, "What do we name this kid? He's a good kid. He's got potential. We know. How about William? William Williams.
William.
Throwing a Carlos. I like that.
Yeah, you put in the Carlos, and then you're better off.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, let's take some super chats. Bill Kennedy says, "So happy you were doing well, Papa Cohn. I was concerned about the late start. I had the flu for a month. No golf."
Thank you, Bill. The reason it's a late start, a friend of mine from the Chronicle, when I used to be at the Chronicle, named Ron Thomas, who covered the Warriors when I was at the Chronicle, now lives in Atlanta and teaches at Morehouse College. He was visiting the Bay Area because he went to the All-Star game, and he and I had lunch today in Oakland at the Wolf on Piedmont Avenue. And I love Ron, and that's why we're late today. I wasn't ill or anything.
Dees doesn't donate any money, but I thought this is interesting. He says, "It's crazy watching this stream, seeing Grant and his dad. It's like looking at Grant in the future, talk to Grant in the past."
Grant's a lot better looking than I am. In the future, he'll still be a lot better looking than I am.
Joseph for real says, "I'd love to believe the Niner vets are selfless as Kittle is alone. He sacrifices by Kyle's red-handed progressions and unmistakable tight end university. I fear the Bosa's potential together are O'Doyle level dysfunction." Dad, what's that from? O'Doyle Rules.
It's that movie with right? O'Doyle
Billy
Rules?
Madison.
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison. Yeah, good call. All day, every day. Kim says Philly's front office, head coach, quarterback, down to the last man are pretty much better than the Niners. But it starts in the front office and the way Philly drafted and signed players the Bill Walsh way.
Do I agree? Exclamation point.
Yeah. We're talking about what the Niners need to be as good as the Eagles. A really good general manager.
I agree.
Yep. Jorgen 1990 says, I'm the antithesis of Chardal. Get Kyle out now. Uh-oh, beef. Kev F says Eagles won using Harbaugh team building philosophy with a big O-line, a running quarterback with a big arm, and a Vic Fangio defense. This dynasty is... I hadn't thought of that. It's kind of like the Kaepernick team. Dad, who's a better quarterback? Jalen Hurts now or prime Kaepernick?
I would take Jalen Hurts anytime.
Me too. Why?
I feel Hurts is disciplined and he plays within the offense. Kaepernick, I never felt he actually really knew the offense that well. And if his first read was covered, he ran.
Also, he wasn't a powerful runner like Hurts. He didn't break tackles. He was very fast when he opened up his stride, which is great. But Hurts will give you like 15 rushing touchdowns a year because when he gets inside the 10-yard line, he's the goal line back. Like he's going to run the ball into the end zone. And Kaepernick wasn't like that. When they got the ball down to whatever it was the 5-yard line at the end of the Super Bowl, he threw the ball 3 times. Hurts would have probably ran the ball in.
I'm going to say something else, Iggy. I don't feel that Kaepernick was a good influence in the locker room. My personal opinion.
I think he was very polarizing.
Especially toward the end. And I feel that Hurts is very conscious of where a group were together.
And I think that group loved him.
Yeah, I love Hurts for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you just tuning in, this show is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Spin your way to massive jackpots with BetUS Casino and their amazing deals. 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 and 250% crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000. Don't ask me what it means, but it sounds really good. Dad.
Yes.
The Niners have some splaining to do. They have some ground making up to do. They're way behind these teams. Should they go out and trade for Max Crosby, Myles Garrett? There's that move, the big splash blockbuster move. Or should they go out and get a bunch of modest middle-class players and focus on the draft after that?
I have a very definite, it's a great question, and I have a very definite opinion. I don't believe the Niners are one player away. I don't. If they were one player away, absolutely. I think they can get one, like Hargrave. He was supposed to make up the difference.
True.
What difference did he make up? I think they need a lot of players. I think they need to give themselves choices, options. I do. How do you feel?
I keep going back and forth. I don't like the idea of spending a lot of money on a free agent. The way I look at it is there's something wrong with that player. Why did the team let him go? I don't like doing that. That's what they did with Hargrave. They gave him all this money. Well, you know better than the Eagles? Why? You don't. There's something wrong with them. Now, if they were to trade for someone, they've had success with that. They traded for Trent Williams. That worked out. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. That worked out. So if you could go trade for like Myles Garrett, who might be the best defensive player, and that just feels like the kind of move that Eddie DeBartolo would make. Oh, the best defensive player in the league is available. Well, we're the best team. Why wouldn't we want him? And then there's the other thing is like they're entering year 9, and we both kind of feel that if they were to miss the playoffs, that maybe someone could get fired or a lot of people could get fired. And if all you're really counting on is better health and a few rookies and a couple mid-level free agents to propel you back into contention, good luck.
Okay. Iggy, they get Myles Garrett. Are they better than the Rams?
They get Myles Garrett. Can they defend the run? I don't know. I mean, they still have nothing at defensive tackle. They're still probably going to lose Greenlaw and Hufanga. Yeah, you could have the two best. You could have the best edge rusher combination in the league, and you can't defend the run, and you never get to rush the quarterback. And who cares?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Iggy, How about this? Each answer may be wrong.
I know. What do the Niners do to get themselves out of a hole? And I don't know. There is no great answer at this point.
They both may be wrong answers.
Yeah. Because in a sense, last year they tried to do the small moves. They didn't. make a big splash in free agency. They got Leonard Floyd and Collins and Elliott and Devondre Campbell. And a lot of those guys were just awful and made no impact. And the Niners would have been better off just playing youngsters. And then there's Kyle, who doesn't like playing youngsters. So that's another problem.
How did Devondre Campbell work out?
Ooh, funny story. You may not have heard this. He actually quit mid-game. It was a scandal.
Scandal.
So did you know that Niners needed a linebacker, Eagles needed a linebacker. Both signed a guy for a 1-year deal for about $6 million. Niners signed Campbell. Eagles signed a guy named Zach Bond, who went on to be a first-team All-Pro.
I guess they signed a better player.
I guess that Howie.
Howie.
They don't call him Howie for nothing. Do you think Howie has dancing shoes that he breaks out and puts on when he really makes a good move?
He doesn't look like that kind of guy to me.
That
like
was Howie King.
Yeah, the one I grew up with. Yeah, not like Howie King.
Javier Sierra says, take your dad to eat pupusas.
Okay. Although I'm on a bit of a diet right now.
Not me. Okay. Dad.
Yes.
Brock Purdy. Going to get paid a lot of money, maybe. Is he still, or was he ever, a top 10 quarterback in your eyes?
Let's not do was he ever. Let's talk about current reality.
Sure.
The only reality we have
That's
is
a good point.
right now today.
Yeah.
So I tend to think he's not. And I'm going to say another thing. I really like him, and when he's good, I love him. He was the last player taken in the draft, and for a lot of time, I rejected that. It's not important. I mean, after all, Brady went in the 6th round, Montana went in the 3rd round. And I also admit that the draft is an imperfect science. They make mistakes all the time. But it's interesting that essentially 32 teams passed on him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
including the Niners a bunch of times.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think that there may be something not quite there. There may be, for all of his wonderful qualities and for his lovely personality, there may be a lack. There may be a lack there. We're still going to see if he's a top 10, Iggy. But when I say there's a lack, can you put into words what maybe the lack is?
I can put into words. You said for all of his wonderful qualities. How about this? What's his best quality?
I think his best quality is pre-snap.
Okay. So most people would say his best quality is his mind, right? The way he processes information, the way he sees things. So why does he throw so many picks? I mean, is that really a strength of his? Do you really trust him to drop back 40, 45, 50 times in a game, read the defense and make the right decisions and not turn the ball over? I don't. No. So he's a good field reader, not a great one. He's mobile, but he's not Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's accurate, but he's not Jared Goff or Joe Burrow. So I think he has a lot of good qualities, but I don't know that he has any elite trait. Not one.
You know what you're sounding like, the way you describe him? He's a par golfer.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really good in all aspects of his game, but it's not like he's driving the ball 350.
Right.
You know, there's nothing that makes you go, whoa, that one thing. Justin Herbert, the way he throws a football, holy shit. The way Lamar Jackson does a lot of things. But Brock, there's a lot of like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I say a par golfer. He can get around the course, but he won't win. He's not Tiger Woods, who Tiger used to be. Okay, let's go and say, what quarterbacks would we currently today rank ahead of Brock Purdy and see what number he comes out at?
Sure.
So, okay, you start naming and I'll keep track.
Obviously, Patrick Mahomes.
1.
Josh Allen.
2.
Lamar Jackson.
3.
Joe Burrow.
4.
Matthew Stafford.
5.
Jalen Hurts.
6.
Jaden Daniels.
7.
Justin Herbert.
8.
Jordan Love.
9.
Jared Goff.
10. How about the guy? Do we do the guy at Houston?
CJ Stroud.
11.
And then you got guys who are close. Baker, borderline.
I would say they're about the
Kyler,
same. I
borderline.
don't like. Yeah, I don't like him. I would take Purdy above those two guys. I might be wrong, but I would take him above those two guys.
The thing about Baker is he has a better arm than Brock.
Yeah,
And the thing about Kyler is he's faster than Brock. But Brock's a
yeah,
good, like, in between both of them.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but let's put him in that pool with those guys.
Here's someone I would take Brock over, and I've been going back and forth on this one all year. I feel strongly about this. I would take Brock over Sam Darnold. And I'll say why.
Okay.
Sam Darnold is good in the sense that he's bigger, he can see more of the field, he has a really strong arm. He has some of the worst pocket presence and feel in the pocket that I've ever seen.
I would agree.
He doesn't know how to move around. He's constantly surprised by people in his space, as opposed to Brock, who seems to not only have a good feel for how to move around, but he's very quick, and usually the first person to him misses.
Yeah. Darnold in the playoffs, when he fell apart.
Yeah.
Iggy. He
Yeah.
fell apart. And
Yeah.
you don't usually see Brock Purdy fall apart.
Well, we did this year a little bit, but at the same time, we saw Herbert fall apart in the playoffs. We saw Mahomes fall apart in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I agree with you on Brock Purdy and Darnold.
Yeah.
And anybody else? So what about the guy up in Seattle and Purdy?
I think the guy in Seattle is more accurate than Purdy and has a stronger arm than Purdy, but there's something about him. I don't know. He beat the Niners the last time. He played pretty well, and he won the game with the scrambled touchdown, which I thought was a really nice play, but I've seen him lose so many times. I don't think anyone's really scared of Gino.
And he seems to, when he doesn't do well, to sulk.
Yes, he does. He's a sulker. That's what I don't like about him.
He's a sulker.
Yeah, and he's like sulking at God or something, the universe. Oh, again.
Yeah, you can't be a sulker.
No. Oh, you can, but you can't be a sulker and play quarterback.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. All right, Dad, I'm going to Indianapolis on Monday for a full week. I've never been before. I'm going to be bringing my stopwatch and some binoculars, so I'm prepared. And then I'm going to be covering not only the event, the running, the stretching, but the meta event, how people cover it, what it all looks like. I don't know. I'm thinking that's what interests me the most, and I'm thinking that's probably what interests people the most.
I've only been there one time, a long, long time ago. I covered the Indy 500. And I remember Mario Andretti got really angry at a question I asked.
Would you ask?
He was yelling. I don't remember what I asked.
He yelled at you?
Me. Yeah, he did.
Oh, nice.
But I never cared. And, he lives, or I don't know if he's still alive, where I went to college. He lived right near Lafayette College. So I was happy to talk to him. And I do remember one time I was leaving, practice one day, whatever they have, going back to my hotel to write. And they had these people that had helium. And if you took the helium, you could talk that funny voice. So that's the only time in my life was in Indianapolis when I took in the helium and talked to Daffy Duck. You know what I mean?
That's kind of funny. I think it's going to be an interesting experience because I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be like a smaller town. Like it's not New York or Philadelphia. It's one of those mid-sized Midwest towns. And like the whole NFL is going to be there. So it'd be kind of fun. I think you'd be walking around, running into people. Who knows? You might see John. I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of John Lynch. Don't know if Kyle Shanahan's going to go, but there'll be people there. You might see things, have good stories.
I think that's one of the reasons you're going.
Yeah,
for the humanity.
The humanity. Like I don't think people need me to say, look, so and so ran a 4.46, but I on my hand timer, I got him at 4.47. So
no, you can do that. And you can also say who looks good, who would be good for the Niners, all of that. But in addition, you want some of the humanity.
Humanity.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a story about humanity, okay?
All right.
When I was covering the Indianapolis 500, the one time I did it, a few days before the event, they got a little jitney, a little bus to take the media around the track. I mean, they were really sweet. They were really nice. And I was on it with, Tommy Bonk, who used to be in Houston, but now he lives in San Francisco. He's a great guy. So After a while, they let us walk around the track a little bit. And I noticed that there would be tire tracks, skid marks there's a wall around the track that would end at the wall. So I asked the guide, what happens? Because the wall is pristine. What happened to the tire tracks? And he said, that's the painter. And when there's a crash, afterward, we get the painter and he paints the wall white, but we don't get the skid marks off the track. And I wrote a whole column on the painter because clearly the painter was death.
Yeah.
That's
the
what
painter.
I wrote. The painter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez, that's
What do you
pretty
think?
morbid.
But do you like that?
I do like that. That's really good. The painter. Yeah. That sounds like the title of a mob movie.
The painter. Yeah.
Yeah. I paint houses for a living.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my memory of Indianapolis, the painter.
So they'll be like, hey, so-and-so just crashed and died. I need you to go paint that wall.
You need to go paint that wall. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, big tragedy out there. Just what? Don't step. Anyway, I'm excited to go. Apparently, there's an incredible steakhouse in Indianapolis called St. Elmo's. So what I'm going to try to do, get some reservations, maybe show up at the bar and head on a swivel, see what I can see. Head on a swivel.
It would also be nice if you go out with some of the guys and the women who cover the beat, the Niners beat. But I don't know how close that bunch is or how close you are with them.
Well, I'm a spark plug, so I'll suggest it to everyone. Maybe I'll make the reservation. I know that me and some of my colleagues on SI are going to be meeting up as well. So that's kind of nice because we're a team.
I think that's great. Now, Iggy, where does it take place, this combine?
The Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis. And I'm staying in a Airbnb not far away for 7 nights for a grand total of $600. You got to love the Midwest.
Iggy, who plays at the Lucas Oil Stadium?
The Indianapolis Colts. They used to play in Baltimore, moved to Indianapolis.
So, Iggy, it's an outdoor facility?
No, it's indoor. And it's, I think right now, 17 degrees in Indianapolis, but it should be a little bit warmer when I get there, hopefully.
So they have an indoor, a dome stadium?
A big dome, yeah. And people be running on the turf.
On the turf.
Okay,
I got it. And that's where it is every year.
That's where it is every year. Although I was talking to Mark Pattison, who's my boss at SI, who played for the Raiders, and he said when he did the combine, it was at Arizona State. So that sounds like a lot more fun. Warm, outdoors, but you got to like the Midwest, and they got a good steakhouse, so I'm open-minded.
Okay. What are the hours of the, what time does the combine start in the morning, and what time does it end?
You really think I know that? You know me. I don't know that until the night before. I could look it up right now.
And
I'm sorry.
How many? I'm trying to give you something to think about.
Yeah.
And how many days does it go on?
So here's how it works. I fly in Monday, and then Tuesday, I believe, is interviews for head coaches who have come. So probably not Kyle, although he could change his mind at any moment and go, but he hasn't gone in a while. So I'll go around and interview other coaches. That'll be interesting. And then on Wednesday, I think is general manager. So that'll be John, and we'll get to ask him all about Debo, I guess. And then Thursday, they start with some of the drills, and it's different positions for 4 days.
I got it. Another question. Iggy, I would imagine there's a press box there where you can write.
I would imagine there's going to be a whole lot of writers and media people there, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So I'm trying to think. There'll probably be a space to write, but I want to figure out a place to stream afterward. That'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, you'll feel it
I'm
out.
clever.
Right? You can go. You're clever. You can go in the stands. You
can
go
in the stands.
Or you're staying in an Airbnb. You can go to the Airbnb.
No, I like you. We want the visual background. You're the visual stimulation. You know, people want to feel like they're there. No one cares about my Airbnb.
Okay, I got another thing. If Kyle isn't there, fair enough. He doesn't want to go. Mm-hmm. Although I think he should. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things you can do is ask other coaches questions that pertain to the 49ers.
Sure.
Could you give me an example?
Yeah, what do you think that 49ers need to do to get back into the playoffs? How do you assess where they stand?
That would be a good question for Sean McVay and Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, Jim Harbaugh. If he answers the question, it's news. Sean McVay would answer the question. Harbaugh might not. That'd be interesting. I'd love to ask them both. Harbaugh's good.
Yeah, he might diss you, right? You never know with Jim. Never know.
He might give me the Mario Andretti treatment.
Oh, Mario got so angry at me. Gee, Mario, calm down.
Yeah,
Calm
it's just
down.
a question. What's a big deal?
Yeah. Although the other night, Iggy said I've been a little snappish lately.
I didn't. That was a private conversation.
Okay, I take it back.
I'm so proud of my dad. Look at him. Everyone look at my dad. Doing great. Look at him.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Tell him they should read my Substack, what I wrote about today.
You should read my dad's Substack. If you haven't subscribed to the Substack yet, please do so. Lowell Cohn Substack. He wrote today on what it takes to become a writer, and I think everyone should read it. It's a short little Substack post, and it contains everything you need to know to get started as a writer. The essence of writing.
It is the essence of writing.
The essence of writing. We got one more super chat from David Pizzuti. David says, when the Niners extend Purdy, there'll be a team with a run-first scheme that pays over $100 million a season to its quarterback and top 2 wide receivers. Kyle and his front office lack a coherent plan.
You know, I'm afraid that they lack a coherent plan. And here's the deal. If they come up with a coherent plan and come up with a good team for this season, I'll praise them to the sky. I will.
Yeah.
I will. I would love them to do that. I think the world is a better place when the 49ers are a contender.
Kev says he has a book in him. I'm thinking Kev read it.
Do you need surgery to get that book out?
Make sure you read my dad's Substack, subscribe to my dad's Substack, and tell him what a swell guy he is, because he is, and he gives us his time generously on these Tuesdays, even after he had a big day. Dad, thank you very much. I love you.
I love you. This was a lot of fun.
It was. And next time we do it, I'll be in the greater Indianapolis area.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.